I think all creatives can relate to feeling a little stuck in your creative work at some point. We want something, we might even long for it very deeply, yet we can't seem to move forward with it like we want to. Oh, hi there everyone. Today I want to talk about feeling stuck in your creative work, because I think it's something that we sometimes avoid talking about. We might feel a little bit ashamed that we are stuck or feeling stuck, or we might not even really want to acknowledge it or see that we are in fact stuck. So yeah, it's something that I've experienced a lot in my own creative journey, and it's also something that I very often deal with, together with my clients. People usually come to me when they feel a little bit stuck to some degree in their own creative work. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So what do I mean when I say stuck? It can sound like this really big and bad thing, but I think it's very common to be stuck to some degree in your creative journey. So I define it as you want to move forward, you want to take a step in your creative journey, and it really matters to you, but you don't seem to be able to move forward. You are struggling to do it. And there's a whole spectrum to this, so it can go from being completely and utterly stuck, not being able to do anything, to all the way over to just being a little bit stuck and doing things, but you don't really seem to get anywhere. So yeah, there's a whole spectrum of feeling stuck. And what are we stuck with then? So it might be that you are going for a creative goal in your creative work, that there's something you're reaching towards. Like me, for example, I'm building my creative business. So my goal is to have this business be established and working really well. So that's what I'm always aiming towards in my creative work. And if you have that kind of goal and you feel like you're not really making any progress, you're not getting any closer to it, that might be that you're stuck. Or it might be that you want to change something, course correct, so to speak. Maybe you have been doing a lot of blogging for a while, and that takes up all your creative energy, so you don't have anything left for painting, for example. So you want to make a change, but you don't know exactly how to make it. Or it could be simply that you're working on a project and you're struggling to move forward with that project. So something defined like writing a novel or starting a podcast or starting a blog, whatever it might be. There's something you want to do, but you are not really making any progress in that project. So what does it look like then when we are stuck? How does it manifest? How does it affect us in our day-to-day creative lives? It could be that you are simply struggling to sit down and create, that you end up not doing much work because every time you think, okay, I'm gonna sit down and create now, you also think that, oh, maybe I should do the dishes first, or maybe I need to do this other thing so I can have that out of the way and then I can focus on my creative work. But you're always doing this, so you're never really getting down to creating. That might be one way it manifests. It might also be that you are really busy in your creative work. You're always doing things, but those things aren't really adding up to something. They're not leading you forward on the path that you want to go on. And this might look like you're planning and strategizing and pondering a lot. You're doing all this thinking, but you're not able to get to the next stage of the actual doing and starting to create. Or you want this change, you have a good idea about what you want, you know where you want to go, but the idea of everything that will entail overwhelms you. It feels like there's going to be so much work, it's such a long journey, so you're a little hesitant to get started. Or it might look like you are unable to make a decision. There's something, a fork in the road that you are seeing ahead of you. There's a decision that you want to make, but you're really struggling to choose which path to go down on. So this is also very common. Let's say, for example, let's say you want to start a YouTube channel, but you can't really decide how you want the channel to look, if you want to do it really how to, or if you want to do it much more lifestyle-y, and this decision is keeping you from moving forward. Or it might simply be that you don't feel good enough for the work that you want to do, the project that you want to do, and so you don't feel like you're able to move forward because you're not good enough yet. So I want to share 2 stories from my own journey of how I have been stuck in my own creative journey. So the first one is when I was utterly and completely stuck with my novel. So this was back when I tried to start doing creative work. I had obviously been creative as a kid and written stories and all that, but as an adult I wanted to do more creative work in my life. I wanted to have creativity in my life, and I specifically wanted to write a novel. So I was trying to start to do this, but I really struggled. I would write for a short period of time, do it really intensely, so I didn't really have time to stop. And then once I actually did stop, then I would have a long stretch of time that I didn't do anything, because it just gave me anxiety, basically, because I was so scared of failing. So that's one type of being stuck that happened to me, and that kept me stuck with moving forward with my novel for years. So yeah, that one can be really detrimental. The other story I wanted to share is when I was starting this business, when I was thinking that I would really like to be a creative coach. I want to help others. That's something I'm really passionate about. But I also, again, was wondering, am I good enough to do this? Is this going to be valuable for someone else? Do I want to do 100% one-to-one coaching? Do I want to create some courses? How will these look? What is the kind of business that I want to build? And that decision kept me from going forward for a long time as well. So why do we really get stuck, and what is it that keeps us stuck? I think sometimes that we focus a lot on how being stuck manifests and the problems that arise from that, and try to fix those specific problems rather than going back and seeing why we're stuck and dealing with those issues instead. So we might lean on productivity hacks, we might say, oh, I'm so lazy, I'm so unstructured, or I'm just bad at this stuff, I'm not good enough. We tend to fall into those things when we're trying to deal with moving forward, but not really understanding what the problem really is. So I think there are a couple of different things that goes into this, into why we get stuck. And I think the first thing is that we might not even know exactly what it is we want to create. So it's really hard to move forward to try to start creating something before you understand what you're trying to create. And of course there might be a play here back and forth between experimenting and trying out things and then going back and thinking about, okay, what was it that I really enjoyed? What was it that felt right and what didn't feel right? But still, if we don't know what we're trying to create, it is really hard. It's hard to have a direction when you don't know exactly what that direction is, essentially. So that might be one thing that is keeping you stuck. The second thing is that we might know what we want, but we don't know how to get there. So we don't have a strategy, we don't have a plan, we can't really envision our own journey towards where we are aiming. And in that case, it's hard to start moving because we don't know how. And if we're in this space, we're usually quite overwhelmed. It feels like it's gonna be impossible. we can't see how it's all gonna happen. And of course it's hard to start moving when we're in that space. And the last thing, and probably the most important, that I think goes into all our creative blocks and feeling stuck, it's that it might be scary. It might simply be scary to take that next step. And this is so very common in creative work. I think that it always requires us to think new things and do things we haven't done before, and all of that is something that we usually find a bit scary. It's how our brains are wired. And it might be especially scary because it's so very important And I think feeling stuck is a sign that this is really important to us. This is something that is forcing us to grow, forcing us to see ourselves in a new light. And it's not just that we are feeling lazy or that we are unable to do the work. It's simply a sign that it is really important work that you're trying to do. So the good news here is that everyone gets stuck. It's so very common and it's something to be expected, I think, in your creative journey. We get stuck when there's something we are pushing up against and there's sort of like a threshold in our journey, a bend if you want, that we just have to deal with and understand what is holding us back and how we can move forward. So in this video we have talked about what it looks like when we get stuck, why we get stuck, what keeps us stuck, and in the next video I want to talk about what helps us get unstuck and move forward. So stay tuned for that if you're feeling a little bit stuck. And yeah, that was all I wanted to share today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that little like button if you did, and see you in the next video. Bye!